Good afternoon. Welcome to the Art and Science of Blending Learning. It's a webinar for risk takers and like-minded educators who are curious about blended learning. I was very curious before I started this research on blended learning, and there's so much out there about blended learning that I'm going to try to fit it all in within this hour. I'd like to remind anybody who's watching or listening that we have our Dell conference coming up next week at the Workforce Center, and you can get information for that on our DELT website. That would be nmdelt.org. Today's presentation is presented by Terry Gustafson and my lovely moderator, Jamie Bearden. So let's get started. First question I have is, what is blended learning? This is kind of a short response to that answer. Blended learning, or sometimes referred to as hybrid learning, is a teaching and learning model that combines online teaching components with face-to-face teaching components. I found you a little video so you can watch. This is the basics of blended learning. It's a video that's going to take about 5 minutes, but this is a good encapsulated version of what blended learning is exactly.
As online learning becomes the fastest growing form of education in the world, many traditional institutions and instructors are using it in their classroom. The use of face-to-face instruction and computer-mediated or online learning is called blended learning. The concept of blended learning is only a revelation for those who have been trying to do everything with just one tool. In the old days, it was just lecturing and hoping the sponges sitting in front of you soaked everything up. In modern times, it's simply pointing students to a computer and expecting them to learn. And in both cases, instructor and students end up with less than ideal results. Good classroom teachers have always blended their methods. Reading, writing, lectures, discussions, small groups, and projects, to name a few, are all part of an effective blended classroom. These varied instructional strategies are a combination of different modes of delivery and different styles of instruction. Understanding that using the right tool in the right situation for the right purpose should be a guiding instructional design principle. With the advances in technology, today's blended learning approach effectively combines two things that make each other more powerful: a face-to-face classroom with a talented teacher combined with technology and computer-mediated activities. Blended learning really becomes an opportunity to provide differentiated instruction.
We just registered her for the class. She just finished her lab hours.
No, she's
I'm going to stop.
Technology and teacher.
Oh.
Stop right now
How many hours does she have?
because I'm hearing some interference, and I'm not sure if that's coming from something that I have on. So, Jamie, are you hearing?
I am hearing that background. I'm not sure where it's coming from. I was muted, and no one else is on. Oh, yes. Barbara may be on. I'm going to mute. I've muted Barbara. That might work.
Yes, probably in her office. It's something about a student wanting to register. So
Right. I think we're good to restart or to continue with the video now. Yeah.
And I wanted to make a point here. Yeah, there's more involved with blended learning than just throwing a video on. And I love his head. I wanted to comment on that. So getting back to our video blended learning and introduction and to blended learning, I'm going to start over. Here we go.
We're working together. Now, there's no magic recipe for blended learning because there are so many differences in subject matter, course content, objectives, different learner demographics, access to resources, and other variables. The important questions for any classroom designer: what do students need, and what are the concepts, skills, and standards the instructor is responsible for teaching, and the students are for learning, and then working backwards from assessment to strategically plan blended instruction. Now, in future videos, I'll clearly define 6 different models for blended learning and the concept of the flipped or the upside-down classroom. But for here, I wanted to first simplify the concept of blended learning and the understanding that it's taking the best aspects of traditional face-to-face instruction and the technology associated with online resources and computer tools to facilitate greater learning within a teacher-supervised classroom. Now, blended learning is not about replacing teachers with technology. In fact, with blended learning, teachers become more important and more effective. In a blended learning classroom, the instructor is still responsible for the class content and the student progress in a traditional way. Through blended learning, the technology, the internet, connected computers, mobile devices, apps, and all of these kinds of things allow for the presentation of the information and material directly through simulations and games, and provide opportunities for increased practice, and can provide feedback through formative assessments. The technology can also allow for differentiated student pace, whether it's accelerated or remediation. Additionally, technology can extend the classroom by providing access to information and resources beyond those available in the classroom. And in the cases of limited technology, teachers can always skillfully rotate groups on a fixed or on a need-based schedule. But it's the instructor in a blended classroom who has the opportunity to synchronously, in real time, engage students individually, providing assistance, tutoring, creating opportunities for students to work in groups. And the teacher can quickly monitor and assess student progress and intervene immediately as needed. Most significantly, teachers can connect with students personally and develop relationships that can positively affect the development of the whole student. In conclusion, blended learning is about combining the best aspects of using technology as a tool with the expertise of the individual teachers within a classroom environment to increase learning.
So I wanted to mention here that the one thing I've learned about blended learning is that it frees up an instructor's time to sit and deal with differentiation and to deal with students who are struggling and who need help. You're putting all your stuff, your lecture and your heavy stuff, online so that when you come to class, you could have the important discussions that create critical thinking. There is so much out there about blended learning that I might have to do another webinar about it. I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the online components when we talk about blended learning and face-to-face instruction. Some of the online components of blended, there's so many out there that they can be from very easy to use to very complex. When we talk about complex, we're talking about where the teacher has to spend a lot of time learning the systems, and student has to spend a lot of time, and there's a lot of time prepping as far as what's going on. For example, something like Play-Doh might seem complex to someone because they have to go in, they have to add their students, they have to find the lessons that are appropriate for their students. So it can range in levels from easy to use to complex. Another thing is it might be free, or it could cost a lot of money. So it can range from things that are free to proprietary. Some of the systems or learning platforms that they have out there cost a whole lot of money. And it's a yearly thing. So depending on your program and if you have the funds, that's a big consideration. They can go from simple to use to sophisticated to use. And like I said, usually when something's complex, it requires much more time to learn for both the student and the teacher. Also, some components of online learning. These are major components dealing with synchronous communication and asynchronous communication. I hope I'm pronouncing this right. Basically, synchronous communication is communication or lessons as you teach. Asynchronous can be accessed anytime, and I'm going to go a little bit into what the differences are between those. In an asynchronous online kind of lesson, the learning component occurs in real time, where the students and teachers are interacting and assessing the online content at the same time. For example, you're in class, you're in a computer lab, you're both accessing it at the same time. You can assign lessons that are actually in class and online and have a combination of both of those. An asynchronous lesson is an assignment via the internet. The lesson is usually in a learning agenda or part of a module that's posted, but it'll have a scheduled time frame. As a result, the students are able to complete the assignments at their convenience. So a classroom like a Google Classroom or a Blackboard, they'll post an assignment, they'll give a due date, and it'll be a week or whatever you want it to be. And so this is what's considered an asynchronous lesson. It has a definite start and due date. Okay, so blending in. This is from the Extended Promise of Blending Learning in the United States, and we're going to describe 4 different course models. Now, this might be according to your state, so it might change for New Mexico, but considering you have nothing online, 0%, it's considered a traditional face-to-face mode. Something that may be a little tiny bit, or 1% to 29% online, would be considered web facilitated. About 30% or a third to 79% online would be considered a truly blended model or a hybrid model. Anything above 80% would be considered a distance learning course. Did we have a question?
No, I do not have a question at the moment.
I heard a little ding, so I thought
Yeah.
maybe that was a question. Okay, so this goes a little bit in more detail about the differences between a blended learning class and a face-to-face classroom. The role of the physical space has changed as far as, being online or being in the classroom. Class content changes. You're finding things online, so your class content is going to change. Online content, that's the same thing basically as your class content. Feedback methods. When we think of feedback, we think of communication. So if you're not in the classroom face-to-face with somebody, you have to consider what kind of feedback methods you're going to come up with. Flexibility. Just because it's flexible doesn't mean that you can be lazy or a student can be lazy. A lot of stuff has to be put in about office hours. Your office hours aren't in a physical location anymore. They're online, so there's a lot of things you're going to have to explain to your students as far as where I am and at what times to contact me. Attendance is participation. So how are we going to count attendance? Time on tasks. These are considerations that you really need to outline before you start going into a blended classroom or a full distance learning course. So the blended classroom might include face-to-face and online learning activities. So how are you going to include face-to-face? Are you going to Skype? Are you going to go to Google Hangouts? Online learning activities, group activities, small group activities, instructor to student activities, student to student activities. These are big considerations when you start a blended classroom. Traditional timetable classes with different modes such as weekend, intensive, external, and trimester. Because you're online, there is no really traditional timetable. We can go in anytime we want, Sunday night at 2 p.m., or we can go in at 3 a.m. in the morning if we want. So these are considerations when you're designing your class, what the time schedules are. And these are things that have to be worked out with the student too. A good idea is to start with a quiz to see if what student has what available time. Do they have enough time? Just because it's online doesn't mean that you can be lazy and wait till the last minute. Well-established technologies such as lecture capture and/or with social media and emerging technologies. There's lots of things about privacy here, whether a website is viable or not, whether it has the right information and is credible. These are considerations that you have to think about before you send and link somebody off to somewhere. And also simulated labs and online things. Is it practical from a student view?
Terry, before you go on, Barbara did have a question. She wants to know, what are the success rates for the hybrid classes? What are our success rates? And if you've gotten any feedback from instructors.
As far as where I work, no, I haven't gotten much feedback from instructors, at least in our ABE department. It's one of the biggest colleges in New Mexico, and they really haven't implemented a plan yet to try blended learning or even to try distance learning. They have one class, and it doesn't fall under the Quality Matters kind of guideline for a distance learning class. So I'm hoping to be able to pilot this and actually gather the research to see if it works. From what I understand and from reading research, it is a new thing, and they have some research, but it hasn't been going on long enough. Um, the research I have read is good, though, and I have a feeling that it would be good for me or for my school because of retention problems. There's a lot of students that can't go and do an extensive class. And what I mean by extensive is 4 days a week, an hour and a half a day. Um, when you look at the population of ABE students, they are people that maybe move around a lot, have children, float from jobs to jobs, so they can't really commit to a 4-day-a-week thing. I believe they can commit to 1 day. So I'm hoping to do my own kind of research by creating my own class, if you know what I mean. But it's so new that there's not a lot of information out there, but what I've read is good, if that answers your question. And hi, Barbara, I've missed you. Welcome. Thank you for coming. So let's talk. I have a video here I'm going to show you. And there's so many theories out there. He mentioned in the last video that there were 6 models. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the theories, especially the SAMR one. So let me put this video on. It's a really short introduction to that.
This is the SAMR model in 120 seconds. The SAMR model is a framework that provides a lens for viewing technology integration in the classroom. The first level is substitution, or the idea that a block is a block no matter where it is or how you access it. This would be like using Google Docs as any other word processor. The new tech replaces the old tech, but it does not change the task. The next level is augmentation. At this level, the tech is still a substitute, but provides more functionality as students work to complete the same task. The ability to share your Google Doc in one click and the fact that it saves to the cloud automatically and provides you access from anywhere is an increase in functionality. The next level is modification. Here the ball really gets rolling because the technology is used to redesign parts of the task and transform student learning. Students collaborating on one Google Doc and using the comment feature to provide instant feedback is an example of modification. The final level of SAMR is redefinition. At this level, we're able to design and create new tasks that were once unimaginable. By shifting our perspective from technology just being another block or substitute, we're able to truly start imagining the possibilities. An example of redefinition would be connecting to a classroom across the world through students sharing Google Docs. They would each write their own narrative of the same historical event, using the chat and comment section to discuss the differences. Some students would use the Voice Comments app to discuss the differences they noticed and embed this in their class website as a culture walk. To recap, substitution is the same task, new tech replaces old tech. Augmentation is the same task, but the tech increases functionality. Modification, we're able to redesign parts of the task. Redefinition, we're able to create new tasks once unimaginable. As we move from substitution to redefinition, we're moving from enhancing to transforming student learning.
Well, wowee, that was 120 seconds going by real fast. And of course, when you incorporate blended learning, it's not going to be that simple and not going to be that fast. And that's the whole point of following some model like the SAMR model. So let me try to slow it down a little bit and talk a little bit about that model. It happened so fast, didn't it? Okay, so the first level they talked about was the substitution, which is the lowest level of use. And sometimes I think I'm actually stuck in this level a little bit. If any of you have watched my previous videos, I've taught you about how I got incorporating technology. And it was because my students were falling asleep. So I sometimes think I'm not so tech savvy. That's why I believe I'm stuck in that level. The first level is substitution and the lowest level of use. So technology acts as a direct tool. It doesn't substitute. It substitutes with no functional changes. They gave an example. Okay, we're putting these students on the computer, but we're just getting them typing up some Word documents. So that's not really fully integrating technology, having them type a document, if you know what I mean. Having a smart board but not knowing how to use it. Students just have to copy and paste at that point. So this is the lowest level. Okay, maybe a teacher's like, oh, I got to incorporate technology. I'm going to reserve a computer lab and have them type a paper. So that's what they're talking about when they talk about the first level substitution. As we get a little further and a little bit more tech savvy, we would reach the second level, which is augmentation. At this level, you're using the same tool with some functional improvement, actually. So maybe you're throwing on a video and you're using it in class to wake students up. Or maybe we're asking students to create a document, but we're using spell check or using some tool like Instant Dictionary or to find a definition. Maybe we're cutting and pasting images into the document. So at this secondary stage, we're seeing a little bit more of a higher level of productivity from the individual students. So it's a little bit better. And all of us go through these different levels, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. It's our way of incorporating our way of learning, and it's good. Okay, the third level, you're getting a little better. It's called modification. This slightly alters but doesn't change the tasks at hand. For example, beforehand, maybe your typewriter, you were creating a doc that was being used to replace a handwritten report. But now we have some more technology tools available. Maybe we create the report in a spreadsheet or on a Google Doc, and this allows for the automatic calculation of all the sums that you're putting in. Maybe you're using that and you're graphing it, all the data that you just put in. So this is a little bit better. It's a low improvement from what the first and the second levels that we had. And maybe we're actually taking it a step further and we're having them email that spreadsheet out. The fourth level, redefinition. At this level, we're going to look beyond ways of just modifying the process, which still has the fundamental task that we started. What's the best way to perform this task or create this document or research? The redefinition level will use much more available technology that we have to complete the tasks. So maybe we've extended it to require research on the internet, collaboration with Google Docs, things like that. So usually most schools are following that model, and it kind of makes sense because when you start incorporating things, you start very small. It's a lot to deal with. It's a lot of work at home to deal with, that, you know, and you're already burdened as it is. I think we do the SAMR thing naturally as part of our learning process, actually. They talked about the 6 basic models for blended learning. So I have a little description here about each of them. We have face-to-face, driver, which are teachers who deliver most of the curriculum in the classroom face-to-face. However, because you feel like you're required to, they may produce some online resources. They may have some equipment brought in, like an internet and a cow, and maybe they'll use that in classroom, but most of it is face-to-face. This one is interesting, the rotation model. The students rotate between a period of face-to-face and a period of online study. So what this might look like is you have a class, half the period you go into a learning lab or a computer lab and complete what you are doing in class. So rotation usually deals with still being in the school. It can sometimes deal with at home when enough people have computers at home. Then there's the flex model. In this model, most learning is done in the online environment. Face-to-face teaching is still available, but for small groups and on an individual basis. So the way I see this is somebody comes into maybe a tutoring lab. They have somebody specifically there to help them when they put their flag up and they need help. So this is called the flex model. They would be assigned the classroom and the computer, and there may be some people to help. An online lab. All course material and teaching is done online, but in a physical classroom or computer lab. Teachers interact with students online through pre-recorded videos, audio, and video conferences or discussions, forums, and emails. So you're getting into a little bit more of a sophisticated tech-savvy student, one who knows how to use a mouse, one who knows how to get to the internet. Something like if you had Play-Doh going on, an online lab would be useful, and it would be considered that level or that mode because the student knows how basically to use the computer, doesn't require much help. So that would be considered an online lab. Self-blend. That's an individual approach. They talk about personal learning networks and things like that. I haven't gotten that far yet myself. I have all these things. I just haven't got them put in one place. So this is fully individualized. Learning for differentiation for someone who is, the words I'm trying to come up with is, it's personal courseware. So it's very differentiated. A la carte. That's a good way to put it. Much of the learning is done online, but the student will still attend face-to-face classes. Online driver. This is where the students work mainly online in a remote location. So they're not coming in once a week to check on you or to check on things. They come to school sometimes for optional or required face-to-face classes. Maybe they need to come in for testing because they've already been considered in class 40 hours. I'm not sure as far as how many people have gotten that far to become online drivers like that. I'm sure in the remote areas that happens because it's meant to happen because nobody can get to a lab. Where do you start? There's so much information, even as I was researching this as far as blended learning. Where do I start? It's kind of mind-blowing and overwhelming when you think about it. My progression into this started with, like I said, bringing a video into class. And now it seems the more I see and learn about blended learning, the more I need to learn. Just when I think that I have something figured out, it changes and it becomes better. So the whole thing is not to stress out about it like I do, but just to keep it simple. Start with just kind of incorporating a few tools that you feel comfortable with. Bring a video into class. Maybe something from TV 411 that shows a funny version of how to figure out ratios. So don't overburden yourself and work because you're going to wind up spending a lot of hours of your free time searching for technology or searching for the right tools. So start and keep it very simple. Start with a few technology tools that integrate well into your course. Make sure you understand, and this is important, the active learning strategies associated with the tool so you can use it appropriately and don't create extra work for yourself or your students. An example of this would be probably, I experienced one of these days myself where you bring in a piece of equipment and you're showing a video and everything goes wrong. You can't get the video to show. You can't get the sound to show. So you don't want to create any extra work. You don't want to be outside of the classroom just finding or researching online and looking for things that are going to fit in, because if you create a lot of work, that's a lot of stress on yourself. Allocate sufficient time. Make sure you allocate sufficient time to redesign your course. You're not going to be able to do this overnight. There's so many details involved. I myself have taken a couple of teaching online classes, and I really didn't know how complicated it could be until I took those classes to really do it right. So this is not something that's going to happen overnight. You're not going to just all of a sudden incorporate technology if you lived half your life without a computer. They recommend 6 months here to redesign your course. For someone like me who's an old dog, I would recommend at least a year. That's not the case for everybody, but for me it is. In order to redesign your project, it's going to take a lot of your spare time. Collegial Process. It's always good to find somebody you can bond with and who has done this and who can give you advice. We all seem so separated sometimes, and if we just get together, we could share advice and we could keep from being up all night looking for things or trying to figure things out when it could be just a simple thing. Exchange of ideas is beneficial. If you find somebody within your school, a faculty member who has gone through this and who knows this, it's great. I found somebody actually she works basically as a secretary within the ABE department, and I would go nuts and I'd go in to see her and she would like calm my mind. I was convinced at one point that the computer, once I got sucked into it, I couldn't get out. And she would actually tell me, oh, well, that's something that you go through. You know, your brain is trying to get used to the whole technology and it's changing. So finding somebody who knows or has been through this before is an excellent thing to do because you're less likely to quit. Collegial process. That's that, finding somebody you can bond with. And I say this to my students all the time. You're less likely to stop something if you find somebody who is there to support you. Organizing the sequence of activities locally and being consistent. Before you can even create any kind of distance learning or blended learning, you have to keep it simple and figure out, well, what do I want my students to learn? You can't create this whole thing unless you know where you're going. So there's a lot of considerations. Things are a little different when you're doing it online. You have to communicate a lot more than you would in classroom. What do I tell the students what do I do if something breaks down? So you got to have answers to things like that. My computer went down. What do I do? I can't make it to class. What do I do? So every single little thing has to be kind of detailed. Office hours change, things like that. Communication is different. It's in discussions and in different chats. So being able to really break it down requires a lot of work. Knowing your course objectives, designing your little blended learning activities around your course objectives. And this is what I started talking about previously in that other slide. There's a lot of considerations that you just take for granted when you're doing in a traditional face-to-face classroom that you really have to detail when you decide to start implementing some blended learning. The blended concept alone. Some students don't always understand that, the concept of a blended course and the relationship between when they're in the classroom and when they're online. So you really have to state the rationale for the course design and the relationship between the components, for example, the objectives, the discussions. I can give you a little example as far as participation and attendance. When I first took my class and we started doing discussions, I wrote something, I replied to something, and it must have been 5 paragraphs I replied to, because I didn't understand that when someone replies, they keep it short and sweet. Using caps, not understanding that caps means that you're mad, things like that. They seem very simple, but detailing those out and writing them out and writing out the policies for that is very important. Understanding that you can't wait till the last minute to do it because you have to respond to discussions along the way. How do you figure out active learning when you're online? One of my first questions were, well, I teach with my hands. When I'm teaching math, my hands are doing these things like perpendicular and parallel. I'm working with my hands. How can I get active learning when it's online? So some students really don't have the maturity to understand the responsibility in active learning strategies when they're dealing with groups and doing collaborative activities. Okay, I'm going to wait till the last minute to do this after everybody's collaborated on this document. So they really need to understand the responsibilities as far as individuals and as part of a team. Time management. Many of us know we have a little bit of time to deal with stuff. You can't take a week of an online class and just be able to go in for 2 days. So understanding that the time management is going to change. You have to schedule times to go in there to reply to discussions, or it's too late. So they'll need assistance to develop these kind of skills. Understanding the difference between being in the classroom versus home takes a lot of responsibility, a lot of commitment. Some students need help to understand the concept of reduced seat time. Their seat time at home is just as valuable. Um, they don't consider time in the classroom to be work, or maybe they don't consider time in the class or time at home to be work. So understanding the participation and as far as attendance goes, and as far as the importance of out of the classroom and in the classroom. Do I have any questions, Jamie? I'd like to stop and see if I have any questions. It's a lot of information.
Actually, there was a comment that YouTube is an excellent resource for this tool, and Barbara said she has no questions at this time.
That seemed to be the simplest place for me to start was YouTube, especially when they were falling asleep. I just would go in there and search funny videos that teach math. When I was being evaluated, in fact, and the class started getting off topic and they weren't understanding or weren't paying attention or weren't engaged, the first thing I did was get on the internet and just type in funny math rap for exponents. And I was able to engage them again and to get their attention again. So that is the simplest way. Everybody knows YouTube. There's a video for everything on YouTube. If I want to fix my plumbing, I can YouTube it. So that's a good place to start, and you'll be surprised about how much further you'll get after that. My problem was in the search, because I would come up with so many, search results that I had to go through a lot to realize, what was good and what wasn't good and what was appropriate and what wasn't. So one thing I advise if you do that, especially with YouTube, start subscribing to different channels because you'll notice that there's some channels that you favor or some videos that you favor, and by subscribing to these channels you'll get the recent ones that come out and you'll get reliable, accurate, appropriate kind of videos. There's nothing worse than putting a video on and then realizing, oh my goodness, they're going the wrong way here, they're getting a little bit too profanic or whatever. And just speaking of YouTubes, here was a YouTube that shows actually blended learning in action. These students, as you can see, are in a classroom. This is something that works, and I think it's worth a try for every classroom. We can't stop and like pretend that things aren't rolling along and technology is not important. So even just starting with YouTube is a good place to start. So here we go.
I can say that the things I've been doing the last 2 years have really made a difference because my kids have scored the highest in the state on the standardized tests. So what we're doing here is working, and it's helping them be successful.
We define blended learning as the combination of digital content and activity with face-to-face content and activity. It sounds easy to blend, but it looks very different in every classroom. So if a teacher is using something that works really well in a face-to-face situation, they should continue to do that because it works well. If they can find something else that works better, is more efficient or more effective that's digital, then that would be implemented.
What I have online could be completely different than what the biology teacher has online or what the physical education teacher has online. It just depends what you need those kids to have in order to understand what they need to learn.
Okay, go ahead and get the laptops. And actually, anybody that's in a small group, come over here. I need you to get a iPad.
Why I wanted to go to a more blended environment was so that I could figure out a way to differentiate instruction within the biology classroom, and I wanted a way to be able to work with students in small groups while other students are still engaged in content learning.
There are 3 activities. One's a sorted sentence activity, one is an online interactivity, and one is small group that's going to be working with me. Okay. Slide to the apps and open up EduCreations. So we're going to fill in this chart because this is going to get us practicing base pairing between DNA, RNA, and reading our codon chart. Okay, so what goes with G? C. So I'm going to put G and C together like this, right?
I've probably learned more today just by doing this than I have the whole week that we've been doing this.
We looked at the research about blended learning, we defined it, and then we had to figure out what would it look like in my class. And so that's when I went, well, I actually want to use it more as a tool for the kids for like supplemental materials.
Top or the bottom of the cylinder?
There's always practice problems, or you can go listen to somebody talk about the topic. But the kids started to say that we don't want to listen to somebody else, we want to listen to you. And we need your help. And we want to hear your voice. So I started to go, okay, well, how can I do that? And so our technology person said, have you seen this app on the iPad? And me, not knowing anything about technology, went, I have no idea what you're talking about. Teach me. So we went through a process of me learning how to use the Show Me app. And then I started making podcasts. And it gives me a chance to be in their homes, wherever they are, 24/7. It's virtual well, is what we call it.
And that will correspond to 6 to 9, like it has in the rest of the problems.
The podcast helps so much. It's as if she's actually there, and she just goes through it again, and you can finally understand it.
I see them, they'll plug in, and I look over and they have it on their phones, they have it on their tablets, they have it on computers. They do podcasts for me during class time. I will have specific problems I want to see, just do they understand the basics of what we talked about today?
40. Divide 40 to get C by itself. And C
equal to 40.
Yeah.
How neat is that?
For me, classroom time, direct instruction, investigations, discovery, that's all still part of teaching. It's not all online. A lot of the face-to-face stuff is still the most important thing to me. The online tools are there to help make understanding even better, even more rich of an experience for the kids.
We really wanted the focus to be on the teaching and learning part and on the digital tool as a secondary thing.
Kids don't always get it the first time, or the second time, or the third time, and this allows different ways for those kids to get it. The pass rate for my kids the first year was 75%, and the second year was 93%. The state average is somewhere around 60%, so something's working for these kids.
Well, I don't know about you, but that's very exciting to me. I get all excited when I see stuff like that, and that's kind of how my process has gone. In terms of ABE students, sparking some sort of fire in them to be lifelong learners and to give them these tools and let them see what it's like is amazing to me. I mean, these are things I can't do in a classroom. I can't actually show them how long it takes to fill up a barrel or to figure out area of a cylinder or something, but I can do that online. I can actually film myself filling up a barrel with water and showing them in real time and in real life how long it takes and how much area is in there. So it's very exciting to me that we can do this kind of investigating to actually they still do need your voice, especially in the ABE students, because they come in with so many misconceptions that they don't know this and they don't know that and they're never going to learn it. And when you spark something that they get, it's amazing to me. That's why I'm a teacher, and that's why I try to see what's out there, because teaching changes just like the world changes. She mentioned that she started doing this as a supplemental thing, and that's exactly how I started doing it. And you need to present that you're a lifelong learner in order for other people to realize the importance of it. Edutopia is the place that I got this video. If any of you want, I recommend Edutopia. It's a huge website. It's run by, I think, George Lucas and Bill Gates and Melinda. And it's cutting edge resources for things like this and for videos. Say you just want to bring in a video and it's too much work, you think, go there. They have recommendations for videos and supplemental type of work. Like I said, this tech thing isn't going to happen overnight as far as blending. It takes a lot of work. And also in terms of ABE students, I always thought it was a big issue that people were on their cell phones all the time. And then I thought, well, that's the way technology is going. So if I can't get them face to face, I'm going to go through their cell phones. I'm going to have them incorporate those cell phones when we have a question. Maybe somebody forgot the Pythagorean theorem or something like that. They can go on their cell phones because most of them will have internet capability. So I just got sparked from that. I don't know about any of you. We'll go to the next slide. I get very excited about learning. And I think if the teacher isn't excited, the students won't be. All right, so much stuff out there as far as digital tools to support blended learning. I'm learning new stuff every day, and so this is the point where I want to kind of stop and maybe show you some of my projects that I've been working on. If there's somebody out there who doesn't know already, if you go to the NMDELT site, you can request an NMDELT address in order to get a free Google Classroom. You can play around all you want in there, and you can experiment, and you can use it for supplemental material, and that's a good way to start blending your learning. So I'm going to hopefully do this right. Like I said, I'm not that tech savvy, and I'm going to show you what I have started in Classroom. Wasn't too sure about the structure of Classroom, but I'm starting to learn. What you're seeing right now, I recommend you get this Google Chrome app, and it'll bring up your Classroom and all these different things you want to try. As you can see, I have a huge amount of apps. I'm not familiar with all of them, but I do look in there and I play around. Here's my Classroom app. I'm going to click on this. It gives you really quick access to the things you like. And you will see in here my classrooms. I'm actually trying to create a classroom that will help you set up a classroom, which I think is pretty funny. So that is the Google Classroom training up here where I'm playing around. I have work in progress. I also have this one where I've thrown a lot of my apps that I use for blended learning. So I'm going to open this up, and this is still raw. It's still, work in progress, but I started listing some of my apps in here. I'm very excited to kind of show you a little bit about this Zaption thing you see right here. I've also incorporated some TED-Ed stuff, which I love. Pear Deck, Powtoons. Powtoons lets you create like a comic book kind of thing. And I've done a webinar. I invite you all back, or I invite you to view the Creating a Prezi webinar. It's a different way to do a presentation. It's more engaging, more exciting. But let me show you what I did in my Zaption. Zaption is free. You can upload it as an app, and it's very easy to use. So I created something for the Google Chrome for you guys in here, and I'm going to click on this, and I hope you enjoy it. It allows you to place stops. Yes, I want to resume. It shows you how to, if you were to assign a video for homework, you can place different stops within the video and ask questions, and they have different question types, multiple choice, extended response. They're allowed to draw in this, and it was very easy, so I recommend this app. And I'm going to start your app. I created the Zaption creation on the side there.
Having trouble keeping up with Chrome? Do your knuckles buckle? Are your fingers frail? Then it is time to Chromercise!
Don't you love it?
Let's launch that browser and open those tabs.
And one, and two tabs.
And three, and four.
So you go in there and you put these little questions in there, like this one. What is a tab? Is it a 50-year-old Diet Cola or a button on your son's computer for multitasking and ignoring you? So you're allowed to create these little stops and put these little questions in. It's very cool. And they can't go any further until they submit an answer.
Now share that video. Push it, yeah, leave that comment. And faster, faster, you gotta feel that burn. Oh yeah, burning so good. Now buy that porcelain donkey and buy your job. Now blog about it. Tell everyone about your feelings. And blog. You only got one follower. It's a start.
I don't know about you, but I'm here dancing in my chair now. So I inserted this little question, what is a blog? If you had a blog, what would it be called? So they'll type in their response. My blog was, you should be working on your webinar blog. But we're going to submit so we can move on.
Okay, check that email. Ooh, it's a long one.
I inserted the what are these?
She's got a new boyfriend. She's 80. That's good. And scroll. You got it. Yeah, you're doing it. Now stream that remix. Woo! Come on, everybody, commercialize. Oh yeah, now we're cooking an oil. Pump those pumps. Yeah, shred those phalanges. Yeah, and cook it. Woo! All right, now cool down. Give yourself a round of applause. You're beautiful. You're chrome fast.
So I am laughing hysterically at this video. This is something I found that I uploaded, and it was put out actually by the Google people. But I thought it was engaging, and you know, it kind of has a little tech stuff in there where you can like introduce what a blog is and things like that, and your thoughts. So this is not like some of those programs where you're recording on a screencast and it's not real complicated. You just go in there and you upload this video, and then you watch it and you stop it in places where you want to have discussions or chats. And it's a good way to know somebody is doing their homework, because the analytics you get with this are amazing. So actually, I'd have to be on the site, but when anybody answers, it goes straight to you, and it has all the analytics you'd ever need as far as the time on task and things like that, or whether somebody's finished the whole video. You can use any YouTube video for this. It's very complicated to try to create your own, but I want to show you an extension that's a little bit more simple. Do you have students who can't navigate around the computer or can't even log in? What you can try is using, if you can see up here on my screen, this little like film looking thing way up here. You see it? This is called Screencastify Lite. And it's a very simple app to use. It's free. You can click on that, and what it allows you to do is record your actions as you go from one website to the other. It records your voice. It's very good for when you have to give somebody steps, how to get logged in on Play-Doh or something like that. So I haven't created anything in there. I've played around with this myself, and it's as simple as just starting to record and pressing a button and stopping it. So you can do video, you can incorporate video in this, but especially if you're having problems with people getting to where they need to get on the internet, this is a very good way of showing them. So I'm going to go back to actually my Google Apps I have out here in my classroom. And I'm not sure if we have enough time, but I'm a big pusher when it comes to the TED Ed stuff. TED Ed is very easy to search as far as a quick lesson or a quick video for a concept. I teach math, and they're adding stuff all the time. Let me show you, can you solve the bridge riddle? This is a video that was already on the site, and it comes with questions already, actually. It has stop points and questions for discussion and things like that. But the fun thing is, if you log in and you create an account, you can create your own questions. You can edit the questions they already have. They're very short videos, good for attention span, but very neat as far as getting students to work together. This is a good thing to have when you have a new class and everybody, you can't get anybody to talk or get in groups or anything like this. Here is something I made. It comes from the video, Can You Solve the Bridge Riddle? These are very good as far as whether, if you want it simple, if you wanted to think about it more, you want to have a little more critical thinking involved, you can dig deeper, you can send it to a site that you can research. So, Can You Solve the Bridge Riddle? Let me show you a little bit about this lesson. Very easy to log in, free.
Taking that internship in a remote mountain lab might not have been the best idea. Pulling that lever with the skull symbol just to see what it did probably wasn't so smart either. But now is not the time for regrets, because you need to get away from these mutant zombies fast. With you are the janitor, the lab assistant, and the old professor. You've gotten a head start, but there's only one way to safety: across an old rope bridge spanning a massive gorge. You can dash across in a minute, while the lab assistant takes 2 minutes. The janitor is a bit slower and needs 5 minutes, and the professor takes a whole 10 minutes, holding onto the ropes every step of the way. By the professor's calculations, the zombies will catch up to you in just over 17 minutes, so you only have that much time to get everyone across and cut the ropes. Unfortunately, the bridge can only hold 2 people at a time. To make matters worse, it's so dark out that you can barely see, and the old lantern you grabbed on your way only illuminates a tiny area. Can you figure out a way to have everyone escape in time? Remember, no more than 2 people can cross the bridge together. Anyone crossing must either hold the lantern or stay right next to it, and any of you can safely wait in the dark on either side of the gorge. Most importantly, everyone must be safely across before the zombies arrive. Otherwise, the first zombie could step on the bridge while people are still on it. Finally, there are no tricks to use here. You can't swing across, use the bridge as a raft, or befriend the zombies.
So at this point, you want to stop the video, because this is where you're going to have the students get together and try to figure it out. And I was very surprised how engaged they were at this, how long it took for them to kind of figure out something. So they would argue with each other. This is a brand new bunch of students I had, so I found it really interesting. And I loved it, and they loved it, and they said they wish they had more stuff like this. So if you're interested in getting the answer, then go to TED Ed and check it out. It allows for discussion because we can stop this. And I'm going to actually escape this and show you how to put your questions in there. So if you're designing this, what you're going to do is you're going to watch the video, of course, and see if it's something that's appropriate and that's within your content you want to learn. Think is where the answers are. Now this is already set up for you in this account in the TED. So this is a standard question. It's not something I edited here. They had this, who is the slowest out of the 4 people in the riddle? So it provides a good way to assess your students real quickly. Some have more questions than others and longer videos than others, but you can go in here and you have the ability to change that question. It also has analytics involved, where if you create an account, you can see how many people responded to the questions or how many people got halfway through the video or halfway through the questions. So it's very interesting. It's very hands-off if you want it to be, or you can have it hands-on. Why does everyone crossing the bridge have to stay together? Well, if you paid attention, you probably know why they had to stay together. So it's very good for assessment. And you can take it further than just the questions that they offer. You can put your own in. Which pair should go together first and why? And these are the kind of things that were discussed when I stopped the video anyway. Which pair should go together second? So this was a very fun one. It had a lot of math in it and a lot of concepts in it without feeling like they were being taught math and being lectured. So you can see the amount of questions and the different types of questions. Why do you have to get everyone to the other side before the zombies start to cross? And I forgot to mention the all-important popular zombie thing that we have in here. So we can put extra questions. We can use the ones that are in there already. We can dig deeper, critical thinking, digging deeper, take it to that next level. This is the bridge and torch problem, example of the wider category of river crossing puzzles. Read about other examples. So being able to apply and synthesize the information and take it to the next level. Places for discussion. What are the 2 main strategies used in the solution? It's math, but it doesn't feel like math, which is really cool. So I am not sure if you wanted to watch the rest, but which one should go first? I kind of wanted to show you a couple of other apps that I created, but I love it. I love that one, and you can get very deep in some of those videos. Powtoons. Powtoons, I wouldn't say was one of the easiest things I've ever done. And one of the reasons it wasn't the easiest thing is because I realized for each slide you have to talk and combine it has to be done in 6 seconds. Powtoons, it has some basic stuff. You get more stuff if you pay for it. These are all things that you really don't have to pay for. So let me show you what a Powtoons is about.
Hi, you're with Terry Gustafson, and we're going to flip this webinar. This flip is brought to you by Powtoons, an easy free app that will put power into your presentation. Just pre-record a topic and flip. If you don't know where to start, follow these 4 easy steps to flip your classroom.
So you can see how fast I was trying to talk and how little 6 seconds is for you. Powtoons is nice, especially if you just want to kind of an introduction or something. It's not as easy to use as something like the other app that I had up there, the Zaption, but they're coming out every day with new and different and amazing apps in Google. So what I would like to suggest is that whether you know how to create a classroom or not, go to NMDelt and get an address and go in there because you get this for free. This costs a lot of money normally. Go in and they have tutorials that will help you. This is a way to kind of get your blended learning and get you excited about technology more so than being fearful about it. Everybody thinks it's going to take our jobs, but it's just enhancing what we do already. So I am not sure how much time I have, Jamie.
It is actually 4:05.
So I'm overtime then. So I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you at least can kind of feel the passion I have for learning all this stuff. So it's not feeling like such hard work for me anymore. It doesn't take much to start small. It's overwhelming, but go to Google Classroom, get an account. And that's about it for today. I'm hoping that I'm going to add
I believe we're losing your voice, Terry. I'm not hearing your...
Okay, I'm going to actually provide links to all these references and all these apps later, so I'll let you go. I guess it's over now, and please tune in for the next one, and don't forget our Delft conference next Friday.